I know it says Tomb Raider review in the title, but it's not one of the recent ones if that's what you're thinking. I just watched Tomb Raider Cradle of Life because it popped up on Netflix, and I've seen the first at some point when I was a kid, so I thought, fuck it, why not? And was surprised that it was actually watchable. I can't remember much about the first, just that they both end with some weird black liquid shit, and since they're making another Tomb Raider soon, I guess it's kinda relevant. So it starts in Greece with Fish Lips, Angelina Jolie doing flips on a jet ski. Angelina Jolie looking like Lara Croft originally did, not rendered. For real, she doesn't really look like a person. And then they go into a temple to find what looks like a Dragon Ball, but it's also the Apple of Eden from Assassin's Creed, which turns out leads to Pandora's box, which will release some kind of plague that will destroy humanity. One thing, though, that you will notice is the action scenes aren't that bad, even though this is a ridiculous sounding movie. And I like that a lot of it is actually practical. The cinematography isn't bad either, though. There are some unnecessary CGI scenes, like when she cuts her arm to attract a CGI shark, then punches it and rides it to the surface, which is really fucking dumb, but whatever. And then there's some other scenes which are funny because if they were done today, they'd be done so much differently. Like the wingsuit scene where they jump off of a building and then they hold this shot of them from behind, which may have looked cool then, but it's kind of anticlimactic today. The same scene would have had a bunch of shots from the front showing their faces as they glide through the air. If it was done today, though, it'd probably be done with a bunch of CGI, so I do appreciate that it was a real stunt, and it was done without CGI or any wires. The casting was good too. Gerard Butler and the bad guy is that dude from Game of Thrones. He also played Caesar in the Rome TV show. I liked his performances in both of those. Also, Gerard Butler wasn't a big star yet. Well, as far as I know, he wasn't. So this is probably one of his first big roles. They recruited him from some kind of prison for the worst criminals, which is kind of cliche. So then there's this bunch of action scenes, people getting shot in Hong Kong. There was this cool little back and forth where this guy tries to trick Fish Lips by reloading and then shooting at her with a different gun. But then she shoots a glass out from above him, and then I guess they went to Kenya because that's the title of the movie Cradle of Life is about. And Kenya is called the Cradle of Mankind. I mean, I don't really know. I have to be honest. I fell asleep for a few minutes, woke up, and then they're in Kenya for some reason. So then they're in this dark jungle or some shit, which is weird when a movie kind of just switches genres at the end. Like, it had some supernatural elements at the start, but now people's heads are getting eaten by shadow monster guardian things. The dude then gets thrown into an acid tar pit thing, and then she kills Gerard Butler and goes to open Pandora's box to see a bright light coming from within. She then stops. I think this is to pay homage to Indiana Jones. It didn't suck as much as it should have, which is what I'm saying. It's an okay action movie that was kind of fun and kind of dumb at the same time. It was one of those guilty pleasure type movies, which brings me to the problem with video game movies, which is that even at their best, they're still average as fuck. It doesn't seem to matter how hard they try, these video game movies never seem to get much better than okay. So while the shows seem to get better and show more promise, the movies continue to disappoint. For some reason, they kept making these movies even after the first failure, which goes back to 1993, when the first video game movie came out, which was the Super Mario Brothers movie. And you'd think that they'd stop there, but no, in fact, they've released one or more in almost every year since then. 1996 and 2011 were the only years that I could find where there wasn't any theoretical releases of video game movies. And it seems not only did most of the movies after Super Mario Bros. Suck, but according to Rotten Tomatoes anyway, there are some that are actually worse. Though I would take that with a grain of salt since they think the Tomb Raider movies are worse than the Super Mario Bros. Movies. The worst of which is apparently Alone in the Dark, which I haven't seen and I don't really want to. The first and probably the biggest problem, really it's the only reason that these movies suck, is a lot of these games don't need movies. Actually, none of these games really needed movies, as they all work as their own thing, and in fact they haven't added anything to the plot, as most aren't canon and they only exist to cash in on the existing properties. I can see that they just want to make some money, but it turns out most of these video game movies haven't actually made that much. There's, I think, less than 10 that have made more than $100 million, which still sounds like a lot, but not when you're spending millions to make them. and so most of these movies end up being flops. I wonder, since every movie makes $1 billion now, that what will be the first video game movie to make $1 billion? But maybe we've passed the point where we could actually make $1 billion at the box office. But if I haven't completely scared you off watching more of these movies, here are some up-and-coming video game movies. First up, Borderlands, which wrapped up its filming last year, so it should release sometime soon, maybe at the end of the year or early next year. There are also some rumors that the Gears of War movie, which Netflix was trying to buy the rights to, and it was apparently going to have Batista in it, which would be a perfect casting choice for Marcus Phoenix, I think. And of course they're making another Super Mario Bros. Movie, not a live action one though, thankfully. This time it's animated and features the super cool Chris Pratt and Jack Black, as they say in that cringy reveal video. There's also no way that this movie could be worse than the original, but you never know. It's rare that these crazy ensemble movies are actually good. Then again, it is animated. And it doesn't have to be good to be better than the first anyway. My favorite video game movies, though, would probably be the Resident Evil Damnation movie, but of the live action ones, it would probably also be a Resident Evil movie, one of the first ones, which I unironically think were good movies. Though the last Resident Evil 7 or 8, I forget how many there are, was probably the worst video game movie I've seen, at least off the top of my head. Apart from the few Resident Evil movies, maybe I'd put the newest Mortal Kombat next. And the Resident Evil series has been pretty successful, and overall it is the most successful horror series, or it was. Now it's third. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but how is The Conjuring bigger than the Alien franchise? Also, I didn't know that there were 8 of those fucking movies, and there's not a single one that I would actually want to watch. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe and share this video around. Tell me in the comments what is your favourite video game movie.